Welcome to the Nissan 370Z for Dummies. In this video, you will learn about everything to get your 370Z safe, maintained, common questions, and common issues the 370Z has. Keep watching the video because the questions you might ask will be answered in this video. Go ahead and click that subscribe button and that like button down below. And let's start this off with some numbers. The 370Z from stock has 332 horsepower at the crank and 270 foot-pounds of torque at the crank. Crank numbers aren't really the real numbers. The real numbers are what actually gets put out onto the tires. On the tires, with a 15% loss of horsepower from the crank, it's about 280 horsepower to the wheels and around 220 to 240 foot-pounds of torque to the wheels. Those are the ranges that you will be looking at. The next thing you need to know is the maintenance of the 370Z, and this gets asked every single day on 370Z forums, 370Z Facebook groups. What oil do I use? What transmission fluid? What diff fluid? What do I use for the car? I'm here to tell you what fluids you need. So you don't have to keep asking every single day. You just refer back to this video and I got you. Engine oil, you need a 5W30 fully synthetic engine oil. This is recommended by Nissan to get a 5W30 for all temperatures. These VQ37s love to chew oil. Keep an eye on your oil level, especially in the high mileage engines, because if not, yeah, you might go down in oil very fast. And with the oil filter, a good performance oil filter is the K&N HP 1008. It's a bit smaller, but it's a high performance oil filter, and that will keep your engine very happy. With the manual, you need an MT85 transmission fluid. So I'm using the Redline MT85 for my manual transmission. That has been great. Redline has actually made this fluid specific for the Nissan 370Z and its specification. The manual transmission uses just over 3 liters of fluid. Automatics, they say it's a lifelong fluid, so you don't need to change it, but it wouldn't hurt if you do change the fluids. Find a fluid that is compatible with a Nissan Matic S or Nissan Matic J. So Nissan has replaced the Nissan Matic J automatic transmission fluid from factory to the Nissan Matic S. So find one that is compatible with those, and you will need about 6 liters of fluid if you drain the pan and the torque converter, but make sure you don't drain it completely dry. For the diff fluid, I'm using a Redline 75W90, but if you can't find any of that, just find one that is compatible with a GL5. That's all you need, a GL5 compatibility fluid. So you'll need about 2 liters of this. Make sure you do have 2 liters. It's about 1.9, 1.8 or something like that. Let's get down here because we're going to talk about tires. Now, your stock 19-inch rays, they are a 245 by 40 R19 tire size in the front. In the rear, it's a 275 by 35 R19. The wheel specs for these stock rays, on the fronts it's a 19 by 9 plus 47, and the rear is a 19 by 10 plus 30. So the PCD for these are a 5 by 114.3, and also the center bore is a 66.1 millimeter. There are some manufacturers that have a universal center bore, and then they have a sleeve that they sell to match your center bore, like these Work T5R 2-piece. Work actually sell sleeves for the center bore of their wheel so they can fit multiple cars. Let's smash through this. Let's talk about what bulbs you need, because this is a bit iffy to find, but again, I got you guys. For the headlights, you will need a D2S HID bulb, or you can go a LED conversion, which you need a whole new kit for. The ballasts do sometimes get faulty. To replace them, get a OEM 370Z or a 350 one, or get a Panasonic one that is compatible with a D2S. So with the front indicators, they are a 7444NA globe. The park lights are a 168 T10 bulb. The rear indicator is a 7440 bulb, and the reverse light is a 921 size bulb. The brake lights are a LED within the housing, so you can't really change it, so we'll just leave that one alone. The license plate light is the same as the park lights. It's a 168 T10 bulb. Now these use a T10 175 in the trunk. That small little light, that uses a 158 T10 bulb. All that is done, let's get to the common issues for the 370Z. Big common issues that usually arises in the earlier 370Z models. So this issue is the steering lock module failure. This fails out of nowhere. You can't turn on your car, you can't put your car into accessory mode, the steering wheel is locked, you can't turn on the car, you can't drive the car. This was a recall from Nissan in 2012, so they did kind of fix it. The solutions to this are: one, you can either get a new module from Nissan that costs about $1,200 to $1,500 from Nissan, or you can pull the steering lock fuse that is in the fuse box in the engine bay right next to the battery. A disclaimer to that: the steering lock module, when you pull the fuse, you will not have any steering lock. You will be able to turn the steering wheel when the car is off. So yeah, that's a little disclaimer for security issues if you're worried about that. On the back of 370Zs loving to eat oil or loving to drink oil, these engines run really hot. The tipping point for this to go into lit mode is about 134-35 degrees Celsius oil temperature, and this car goes into lit mode. That has happened to me a few times on the track when this car just got too hot, and yeah, it just went into lit mode. Really can't do anything, cuts out throttle. The normal operating temperature that you will drive around in the 370Z is around 110-115 degrees Celsius. The solution to high hot oil temperature is get an oil cooler. There's a 19 row, a 25 row, or a 30 row, literally a radiator for your oil. That's pretty much it. So this is for the manual transmission people out there. The concentric slave cylinder in the 370Z. That's a tongue twister. Concentric slave cylinder. Concentric slave cylinder. The concentric slave cylinder in the 370Z is inside the bell housing. The housing on the CSC is made from plastic. Why? Plastic plus high constant heat equals failure. When this fails, it just fails. It fails completely, and it fails unexpectedly. But what happens is your clutch pedal falls to the floor and it just gets stuck there. That's when you know your CSC is gone. Solutions to this: get a heavy duty CSC. I recommend a Tilton one, which is a billet housing. It's a very heavy duty, high performance CSC. The other solution that you can go is a CSC elimination kit, which moves the CSC to the outside and eliminates it altogether. It just has a fork that goes into the bell housing. The Z-Speed one, the Z1 Motorsports one, is an oil gallery gasket failure. OEM oil gallery gasket is made from your typical paper-like, cardboard-like material. It deteriorates, it rips, and also the screws also come unloose over time as well. The signs for this is a low oil pressure. You can get a OBD2 reader that can read your oil pressure, or you can install a oil pressure gauge. There's only one solution: is get rid of those paper-like gaskets and replace them with a metal gasket. This is a really big job. You need to take the whole front timing cover off. That means radiator, everything in front of it. Take all that off. So you can get a kit from Z1 Motorsports or EPS Tuning. They have steel reinforced gaskets, and also they include new screws. And while you're there, you might as well change your water pump and maybe your timing cover O-rings and stuff that's there, so you just have to do everything once and not have to take it apart again. If you hear a clicking noise while you drive or while you turn, that is the rear axle clicking. It's nothing major, but if you leave it, it can become major. There is a castle washer or a castle retainer that sits on top of the axle nut, and there's a pin that goes through it. How to resolve that issue is when it starts clicking, or even before it starts clicking, replace it with a Kawasaki castle nut. Yes, the motorbike brand. I'll put their part number right across the screen here. Fuel starvation is also another thing. This is for the highly spirited drivers and also the track drivers. So the way the fuel tank is set up, fuel assembly is on the right side of the fuel tank that houses your fuel pump. When you have a hard right turn, the fuel sloshes over to the left and there's no fuel getting to the fuel pump, so the fuel pump is just pumping air. To combat this, you can get a secondary fuel pump that can work, but that's all I found that can work. the fuel assembly top hat. It's made out of plastic and multiple people have cracked the top hat and it's broken. When that happens, you're getting no fuel. So again, this can happen out of nowhere, especially when you're driving really hard and you're doing pulls under a quarter of a tank. This puts a lot of stress on that and it can break. A solution to this, RJM, the great guys at RJM have made a billet top hat for the 370Z. A really great solution that will prevent any breaking, any cracking on the top hat, and you can drive as hard as you want. Let's head over to common questions that I see. Gearbox chatter. This is for, again, manual transmission 370Zs. LCDs in the 370Z are really loud. That's the sound of the flywheel. It sounds like a tractor. It is a tractor. It's not broken. If you change your flywheel from the stock DMF, the dual mass flywheel, to a SMF, the single mass solid mass flywheel, the noise will get louder. But in saying that, changing from a DMF to a SMF, you'll highly likely go with a lighter flywheel, which will help your car rev faster. And yeah, I think that's a better outcome than having loud chatter. But I don't know, that's me personally. The notorious VQ hiss. VQ hiss on deceleration on the 370Z is, it's very apparent in every single 370Z that has a aftermarket exhaust. An aftermarket exhaust, you will definitely hear this hiss noise on deceleration. Especially if you change out your stock cats to high flow cats or test pipes, be ready for that. This is just the natural harmonics of the VQ37. There's no way around that, but it sounds like an air compressor when you're decelerating. Tuning for the 370Z, there's kind of standalone ECUs you can get, there's kind of not. You kind of have to do a lot of research into standalone ECUs. I remember there wasn't a standalone ECU for the 370Z a couple years ago or a few years ago. Pretty sure Haltech came out with one. If you are looking into a standalone ECU, you'll probably already know what you're looking for. But with the standard flash tune with the 370Z, the most common ones, the most popular ones are UpRev or EcuTech. EcuTech. The difference isn't that major. It's more personal preference, and it's more personal preference for the tuner. The tuner that you go with will most probably have personal preference on which tune they're comfortable with, and I would highly recommend using the one that your tuner is most comfortable with. Not really major difference in performance between UpRev and EcuTech. Either one is great. It still provides the same kind of outcome that you're looking for in a tune with the 370Z. It's just personal preference of the tuner and of the person. The only thing that's major is the interfaces that it uses and how you interact with the module and how to switch maps and stuff like that. Everything that I have experienced over the past 6 years with the 370Z. So comment down below if I've missed anything, or if you guys have experienced any of these, or if you have any other experience you want to share. And also click that subscribe button and like button down below. Hopefully I have helped some of you guys out. I'll see you guys in the next video in KL, covering Tokyo Auto Salon over the full weekend. And yeah, I'll see you guys then. Peace, take care.